To start with, on April 25th, 6 of my friends and other 3 journalists who are also working with online bloggers have been detained because of blogging, and they all are between age 24 up to 30. And now, including myself and other 9 friends of mine, are facing terrorism charges in Ethiopian court. So, because they can't be here and they can't tell their stories, I will try to show how we get there as a country which detains younger bloggers and activists from the internet. As mentioned earlier, I think most of us might know the human rights situation in Ethiopia is sharply deteriorating after 2005 election. That was a milestone. And then the post-election crisis brings us so many things. Actually, it was ended by the arrest of the opposition, but after that, there had been different laws which are enacted in general, and I think to mention the 3 of them are, I think, practically very, very particular, which really restricts basic freedoms and fundamental rights. So we can mention the Civil Society Proclamation, which was enacted in 2009, which really limits the access for funding for democracy and human rights works. We can also mention about the mass media and access to information law, which really restricts the access of the media. And then finally, all that had been said about the Anti-Terrorism Proclamation, which was enacted in 2009. So after this proclamation came to effect, so many journalists, human rights defenders, including political opposition leaders who are really working in the country in a possible way with a registered party, had been victims. And on April, as I mentioned earlier, the young bloggers and me happens to be the victim of the law again. So to say a little bit about Zone 9, so basically Zone 9 is a group of bloggers and activists. We are 9 young people. We started this operation in 2012. It's very easy and simple. We got blog, we write something there. It's about civil liberties, basically, of course, and it's about some political issues in the country, but it's a simple commentary. So we operated for 2.5 years, and then through these 2.5 years, we did some works, as I said earlier, blogging is the one, and additionally, we campaigned for different right issues. Because as I mentioned earlier, after 2009 Civil Society Proclamation, we understand the gaps that there are no groups advocating for human rights issues, working on advocacy and asking for rights and related issues. Basically, there are few, and then we understand that gap and we started campaigning for some rights. We talked about the Constitution, and the government should respect the rights given under the Constitution. We also speak about freedom of expression. We campaign for freedom of expression. We successfully campaigned for assembly and demonstration rights, which also had an impact later on different demonstrations called by the opposition parties. So we all did these things, and we had also been a part of the international human rights forums. We had been a part of the UN Human Rights Council, working on the UPR with other partner organizations, and my colleagues were also there in the African Commission. They took part in the African Commission. They were in panels expressing what's really going on there. The internet penetration rate in Ethiopia is less than 3%, which is very, very limited. But we were trying to use that very small gap because you can't use the civil society platform. We don't have other platforms in the country. So what we were trying to do was to use a small space and trying to advocate for rights. Before the arrest happened on April, we passed through so many surveillances, harassment for around 6 months. So many people approached group members, asked them different questions. And then the arrest happened on April 25th. 6 of the bloggers were arrested, and other 3 journalist friends who had also been campaigning for freedom of expression were also arrested together. So the arrest happened, then they were detained in Makalawi Detention Center, which is a very, very famous detention center for torture and very inhuman treatments. And so all my friends, they passed through torture, forced confession, and other inhuman treatments, and they were not charged for 87 days. Just to say, the crackdown followed the opposition leaders, and finally the media was also a victim, and so many journalists fled from the country. So we can, from this we can understand that the run-up to election is already very intense, with a very intensified crackdowns. So in short, I think some might ask, like, what can the US and the international community do? So I can give some recommendations before my conclusions. I think US and Ethiopian government got this very long, strong bilateral partnerships. Therefore, I guess Ethiopian government pressing the Ethiopian government to open up the space before the coming election is really, really important. I mean, we all know that before the arrest of my blogger friends, John Kerry was in Ethiopia, and Secretary had met some of my friends and my colleagues, and he appreciated their work. And after 6 months and almost a year, the arrest happened. And I think the US should speak loudly about the right violations in Ethiopia more than this. And I think continuing the pushing for the release of arrested human rights defenders, including the journalists, the bloggers, and other political party leaders is really important. If we don't do that with this intensified crackdown and silence from the international community, including the US, I think it's very likely that May 2015 election to induct the same as 2010 election, in which EPRDF conducted mass crackdown earlier and then said they win 99.6%. Thank you very much.